I think it might be best for me to start with how I came to know Dr. Klein and how he influenced my career and my life personally, and then broaden that a bit to the others in my generation and younger generations in terms of his influence on the field of neurosurgery in general and the subspecialty of peripheral nerve surgery. So my personal story, just to focus on that for a moment, is that I was finishing my residency at Mass General in Boston, and I felt that my training in cranial and spine surgery was quite strong, and I felt very confident. But I did not feel that my training in peripheral nerve surgery was strong at all. And that was actually the case for many senior residents and chief residents at that time. This is in the 1980s. And so I thought that I ought to do some additional training. And there were really only two places in North America that were doing a significant number of peripheral nerve cases in which the leaders of this subspecialty were based. And that was Dave Klein in New Orleans and Alan Hudson, his good friend and colleague at the University of Toronto. And so I contacted each of them and applied for a Congress fellowship and spent my time in 1989 with both of them. And it was an eye opener for me because this was a field that I had had very little exposure to, and it was just a gold mine of an area of neurosurgery that needed so much good work done. And the only good work at the time was really being done in those two centers. So they're exciting places to be, and I just took off with a subspecialty of peripheral nerve. And I found that once I landed at the University of Pennsylvania, which is uh, ironically where Dave did his medical school training, that my career really took off. And I have Dr. Klein to thank for my academic success because he really inspired me and mentored me and supported my career at every step of the way. He had me invited as a speaker on a national circuit at our national meetings, and invited me ultimately to apply for membership in the Sunderland Society and proposed me, and we were great friends and colleagues since that time. So how did he influence the field? Well, basically, he and Alan Hudson, the two of them, saved peripheral nerve for the field of neurosurgery. And in my generation, with other colleagues like Rob Spinner and Raj Midha and Alan Belsberg, we all learned about peripheral nerve and did our investigation into this field through Dave's work and through his inspiration. And he really captured the concepts of treatment of patients in a holistic manner, because he was truly a master clinician and a well-rounded physician in the full sense of the term, and not just a surgeon. He was an insightful scientist, master clinician, and a superb educator. And he was dedicated to his patients and to his students and colleagues. He was generous with his time. He spent long hours in the hospital and was really just an incredible role model for all of us. And his contributions were really in three basic areas of peripheral nerve surgery. One was the management of nerve trauma, and particularly his development of electrophysiology in the operating room with the concept of nerve action potentials, which he basically developed using animal models and ultimately applied those concepts to management of traumatic neuromas or scarred nerves, damaged nerves in patients in the operating room. And that is still a mainstay of management of nerve trauma that we all use to this day. And we think about Dr. Klein in his earliest uh, development of that field, and that those techniques uh, really taught us, a whole generation of neurosurgeons, how to make decisions in the operating room with management of nerve trauma. He also taught us about nerve entrapments, not just the common ones like carpal tunnel and ulnar nerve, but he taught us how to manage entrapments all over the body. So nerve entrapments are these chronic disorders that are very common, and really teaching us how to distinguish nerve entrapments from spinal disorders, which can be challenging. And finally, he was a superb teacher for the management of nerve tumors of all types. And his experience with an amazing array of pathology affecting nerves with neoplasia was staggering. And so he basically taught the world that benign nerve sheath tumors, specifically schwannomas and neurofibromas, can be resected and cured while preserving the nerve of origin, which was basically a concept that had not been really fully understood. It had been played around with in centuries ago, but it had not captured the field. And it was through his work and his publications and his lectures that the field discovered that these tumors can be cured and the patient's neurological function can be preserved in the vast majority of cases. So I consider those areas, trauma, entrapments, and tumors, to be his most fundamental contributions to the field of peripheral nerve surgery. And he did all this with an incredible energy, and he made learning about these concepts fun, because he was so dedicated. He had a great bedside manner with his patients, and he had a great gift for teaching. And so every meeting that we would go to, and we'd get together several times a year at the Sunderland Society and the AANS and the Congress meeting and so forth, our peripheral nerve section meetings. And every time we saw him, we were learning something profound. So he was just an incredible role model and mentor, and we think about him every time we see a patient with a peripheral nerve problem, and we ask, how would Dr. Klein approach this patient? He taught us how to examine patients, how to take a proper history, how to order the proper tests and studies to do, and then how to make decisions about ideal management. So I can't say enough about his contribution to this field. It's just profound.